Now, joining me to talk more about the situation in Syria is Ivan Eland of the Center on Peace and Liberty at the Independent Institute. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
I want to go first to the news coming out of the White House that Bashar al-Assad has crossed the red line. He's been using chemical weapons, sarin gas to be specific. But the White House has provided no proof, no evidence. Does this put a question mark over the credibility of what we're getting from the White House?
Well, of course, we always have to remember the Iraq episode where the weapons of mass destruction were so exaggerated they were non-existent. And so I think this really has more to do with the fact that the military situation in Syria has deteriorated for the rebels in the last couple of weeks, and that the administration is feeling a lot of pressure to up the ante, not only from Republicans here at home, but from other countries in the region and Britain and France.
To what extent is this driven by the fact that the rebels have suffered some battlefield losses in Syria, especially with the government retaking the city of Qusair, and the entrance of Hezbollah in a significant amount of people into the war itself?
I think it has a lot to do with it, and I think that's the major reason. I think the chemical weapons, Obama had an out because this always gets left off, but when he originally established the red line, which he probably regrets having done perhaps, but he did include on a significant use of chemical weapons. And you can argue that this is not 150 people dead out of 90,000. I'm not minimizing the deaths from chemical weapons because it's an awful way to die, but traditionally in conflicts, conventional weapons have killed a lot more than chemical weapons because there's a limited footprint. There's air, wind, et cetera, that can diminish these. And so I think this is more about the rebels failing in their attempt to overthrow the government.
Now, to what extent will the president have a way out of this? Because he's got the G8 summit coming up in Northern Ireland. Will this feature on the agenda there, and will he be looking for some kind of consensus on the way forward and how they deal with this problem?
Well, I think what he'll do is consult the allies. He said he's going to do that. He's been very vague about what military support they're going to provide, because I think he knows that this is a slippery slope, because if this doesn't work, then, of course, John McCain here at home, the senator, who's a hawk, he's already saying this is not enough, we need to go to no-fly zone, and then boots on the ground, or you can get dragged into a deeper escalation. I honestly think Barack Obama is kind of reluctant to do that, and he's been reluctant to do that. They originally found that the chemical weapons in a preliminary manner in April, and here we are in June. So, I think this finding comes up at a propitious time, since this situation has deteriorated for the rebels. And I think he'll go there and meet with the G8 and consult with them, and they'll probably decide what they're going to do. But I think Barack Obama is probably still reluctant to do so, and the Russians will be there as well. And of course, they're supporting the other side, so that would be a great opportunity to try to reach some settlement, which is what the administration says it wants to do.
And what are the prospects for that? I mean, is there any way, do you think, that Bashar al-Assad and the rebels will go to some kind of peace conference?
I doubt it right now, because in these civil wars, you don't negotiate unless you're losing, and then the other side doesn't want to negotiate. So usually negotiations happen when both sides are relatively evenly matched and they're exhausted. So, I mean, I hope they can, because I think that's the way to go, and that's the way to have a least chance of Islamists taking over Syria, which I think has always been the real problem with the U.S. Supporting full-fledged rebel effort. I mean, they want anti-tank weapons and anti-aircraft weapons. Those could get in the hands of terrorists, or these people could become terrorists, and then you have a real problem with commercial airliners being shot down, or anti-tank weapons are a pretty powerful thing. They're just handheld. They're both just handheld devices. So there's a lot of fear, and I think most of the rebel groups are either Al-Qaeda or they're Islamist-oriented. And so you really have to be careful with what you do in Syria. And I think a lot of these hawks, they haven't learned from when the U.S. Supported the Mujahideen guerrillas against the Soviet Union in the 80s. Everyone in the U.S. Forgets history awfully fast. And I think we have the same problem in Libya. We took out Gaddafi, and he was certainly a vicious dictator. But now what do we have? We have chaos, lawlessness, and lots of militias running around. So you have to be careful. The moral of the story here, I think, is be careful of the unintended consequences that you generate with these things. And there are always a boatload of unintended consequences when you mess around in other countries' business.
Right. Ivan, Eland, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.